Well, hello teachers, how are you doing? I've got just a pretty short video, just wanted to explain the document that this is housed on. I don't know if this will be used elsewhere, but it's about English language strategies, ESOL strategies, ELL strategies, a lot of different acronyms. But basically, what are some tools and strategies that we have available to us within our resource and within the district to help engage our students and support our students who English is not their first language? Um, and so I wanted to get into that a little bit. Let's first start. I'll just share my screen real quick. Why is this important? What's the point? Um, so some data I've shared with you guys a lot is when we look at the MAP test. So our eighth graders, if they're in your classes, they are taking the MAP test, even if there is some language barriers. The only students that kind of get heavy translated support or excuses or excused are excused from taking the test are students that are very recently into the country, or the students are at our welcome center that will get the language translations. So if they're at your building, they are taking our tests, and so we got to give them the strategies. One of the biggest ones that, and I'll show you how we have some tools to support this, but one of the biggest areas that we take a hit on these tests is our constructed response. Constructed response made up a third of the test questions on last year's test. As you can see, as a district, we performed pretty low on that. And so that not only requires the ability to read a text, data, some sort of information, then also write to explain all that information. So that's kind of the biggest skill that we're trying to focus on, not only in science, but across the district. Um, we have students that they're very intelligent, but how do we help them with that language barrier to continue learning throughout the year and slowly we start off with scaffolds, but then slowly pull them away so that by the end of the year, they're much more prepared for taking this test. So that's kind of the why. We can get rid of that. You guys already know it's important, but I just want to start with that. So real quickly, I'll show you a couple tools that are in Discovery Ed that you can use to support. And I've ran these by our ESOL department just to verify and kind of get their feedback. So first up over here, anytime that you're on the tech book, you're in activities, and this is for students as well, you can select the language and you can, let me show you, there's a English reading level A and level B. So if I click it to B, it will reload the page and it will change the text to fit a lower reading level. So whales, the biggest creatures on the planet, live in the sea, right? Sure. So let's see what it changed that to. We can go back to A. Thought it was going to stay right there. Looks pretty similar. But you have that available to you. I didn't read enough of it to kind of get the difference, but you do have that students can do. You can also switch to Spanish. I'll show you that. Doing it through this tool does not actually change all of the text. Sometimes there will be, if there's a question, so sometimes the questions will not be translated, but most of the other text is. One strategy that I've shared with teachers is instead of using this tool to translate, because that only gives you Spanish, is Google Chrome or Safari have translation features on them. If you right click on any page, you can hit translate, and then you can kind of pick whatever language it is that you want. I can switch this up. I can choose another language, and it'll translate every page, all information. So even though this will miss out on some things, this will do all the pages and always for whatever we need. Now I just got to figure out how to get this back. Get it to English. There we go. So those are some tools. Now talking with the ESOL department, they are okay with those tools being used, particularly if you got tier 1, tier 2, those lower tier students where English is very low. But they want you to wean them off of that as the year goes on. If we just keep our kids in their native language the whole year, then they get to the test, it's not going to be in their native language. So that is We want to help with comprehension using the native language when necessary. And then as much as we can, we start pulling that away as a strategy. So those tools are available to you. I showed you on Chrome how to do the translate page. Not exactly sure what that looks like for Safari, but pretty easy to figure out. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is a lot of our activities actually have, so sometimes they'll have a general strategy, but then they'll also include this English language development support, which for your students who are just emerging into English language, they're expanding or they're bridging. So they got different levels of ideas and strategies that you could use with your students to help bridge those gaps of the language barrier. So I would encourage utilizing those as well. You can find these here on the digital side anytime it's up here in this blue section, but it should also be in your teacher's manuals as well. Okay, so those are some strategies that are incorporated into our resource. Be sure that you utilize those. And then last year we had a PD where I had Miss Hunter from East High School. She talked through some strategies for scaffolds that she utilizes for CER writing responses. And she shared all those materials. So she has a short little PowerPoint. Actually, I'll pull this up, but a short little PowerPoint for, hey, this is some support. You might put this up as a poster in your room. So that way, when you're asking your kids to do a CER, they can always go back to this and remember exactly what it is that each section is asking for. So I've seen this as a poster in a room. And then she has different levels of support for different students. This might be enough for a high performing student, language is an issue, they are set to go, they can go do the writing. Maybe you have a student that just needs a bit more context about what each section is. This is a slightly more support that reminds them what a claim is, what's the evidence, what's your reasoning. This one is specific to what the question was asking, but you could always modify these. And then if you need a student with more, you're providing some ideas of what you would start your sentence with or different ways that you can find some evidence. And then to even the most support, which is basically like, here's the sentence, you finish it, fill in this blank, find your information. So you have different levels of support. You could steal these ideas, you could create something similar, but this is kind of what we're talking about for, all right, these right here help take away a lot of the language barrier. Again, we want the students to show their knowledge, and this helps simplify that. But the one thing I like that Hunter presented last year, she doesn't keep her kids here. She keeps working with them until this kid is now at the list level support. And she keeps working them until they have their more and more independence. So that way they're more prepared for the MAP or EOC. So these are available to you as well as the other, like a rubric and some other things. Do make a copy of these. Don't request permission. Just make a copy and then you can edit or use as you see fit. And then this year we had, well, not this one. We had Megan Shalene, who's a fifth grade teacher. We did a whole presentation. This was back in 10. That's October. Seems forever ago. But Megan came in at the end and talked through some of the strategies she uses to support her students in the CER process. So you can go through how she explicitly teaches the CER process across multiple days. And then she also gives you guys examples. This is at fifth grade, so you may need to work it up, or depending on the level of your students, these could work as are. But she's giving them practice for what the CER actually looks like before they actually do one on an actual lab, some information. And so you can see all the different levels of support she provides for her students. These are also available to you on this slide. Again, don't ask for permission for the slide, make a copy. Any of the resources here, don't ask for access, just make a copy. She'll be happy to share those. All right, so those are the resources outlined on this document and this video. I would also highly suggest if you have any English language learner or ESOL people within your building who are certified, utilize strategies and resources that they have available, or reach out if you have anything more specific. But those are some of the ideas that I want to put out there. We ran it by the English language department. They like those. So, yep, let me know if there's anything else I can do to help, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.